I've recently had some rather deep conversations with my daughter. She calls me on FaceTime. We talk for like 2 hours. It's not always serious. We have fun. But her life is it's coming towards a crossroads where, there's serious decisions for her to make for her life and perhaps live up to others' expectations. What she knows with me is I just want her to be happy. So there's no expectation on me from me, what she does with her life. And she'll never have that pressure because I've never liked that pressure on me. It's a bit of a shame I can't just share like the whole sequence like when we're talking to each other because I personally think us talking to each other on camera, like in the natural state, not like you sitting there being serious, like literally just having conversations, and it's just I think it would help so many people because an awful lot of parents that put pressure on their children, they expect them to be often a mirror of themselves or even exceed what they did. So it's unfair pressure because, like I even said to my daughter, because we're very similar and personalities, but she is unique in her own way. And I said to her, I said, "You're not a mirror of me. You are you." And I think it's really important that she understands that. It's like we will have moments when we're similar, but you have your own path. It's not about you just mirroring me and just doing what I do. It's about you doing what you want to do. And like I say, like, it's so deep. It's remembering every deviation of where our mind goes and the conversation. One thing the reason I share this is I want people to see it in their own lives too. You don't have to agree with me on every aspect. I'm not, again, people are not here to mirror me, but I live myself in an authentic way that's true to me. And I always have. And whether there's an external pressure, and I don't care who it is, it's just never worked with me. I've always had this inherent understanding that life is short and so much of our life gets sucked away from us. And I've always felt that. So when I see other people give away things that really we should hold dear to us, just for the sake of money and things, just because everybody else is doing it, I always just think it's absolute madness. There's stresses in our life, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. It can be the time drain, the pressures, and it can also come from the pressure from like bills. So there is a balance to be had, our finances, and also time. And it's rare. Most people, it's gonna be rare for people to ever get that right because sometimes like we're not afforded a luxury, so we have to find a balance somewhere. And I think older you get, I think the more precious you hold time. Well, at least I do. I mean, I can't say it for everyone because some people never learn. But knowing that now, even though I was already aware before, but it's more profound now in my life. Like I can't make myself that miserable that I'm that exhausted and I'm that frustrated because time's getting away from me. I can cope with the pressure of like finances. I can cope with it. It doesn't make life easy. Believe me, at the moment I'm juggling like a crazy person, and I'm getting fed up because it's not that. It's struggled to get through each month. Like you get some money, you think this is great, and then all of a sudden it's just gone again, and it's like this is just stressful shit. Like this is the balancing act is wild, but the alternative is even worse. I do my books, and you can see here I haven't had the mainstream success that I feel I deserve because I know how good these books are, and I wouldn't. That sets me up, doesn't it? I think if someone says, "Oh, this is good," and then people read it and go, "Oh, it's not that good," that's up to them. But I really do think what I do is different to the average person. I know I have a unique voice, I have a unique way of communicating, and it does make me stand out. Like, I'm not here to. I'm not a salesperson. For me, I don't like it. I could sell things for other people. For me, I don't like it. But what I would say is, and this is a big thing to say, my new book, Follow Your Dreams to Sparkle Your Soul, I actually consider a masterpiece. I genuinely do. The very first words, I'm like, this is just powerful as hell. Like I've read so many like various aspects of it, and I'm like, that's just incredible. That's it. The reason I say it's a masterpiece is I know it literally can empower people and it can change their lives. Like literally, especially those who have been had pressures put on their life, to be a certain way. This is going to show you to be yourself, and I stand by that. So for me to say it's a masterpiece definitely puts me under pressure, doesn't it? And people can then judge it for themselves. And again, what I say I feel is I do things uniquely. I wouldn't make a statement like that if there's a chance I'm just going to look stupid. that'd be really foolish, wouldn't it? But no, I absolutely love this book. My copy comes tomorrow. Finally, getting my hands on the physical copy, which I'm excited to get. But yeah, so like some of the things I talk about would be in the book. But then sometimes after the book, I'm thinking there's other things I think about, and it's like, oh, could have put that in. Could have put that in. My work I do rather fast. I'm not going to go too far into that because I don't want to lose sight. But I think it's just really important for put things in perspective there. I did that book in about 2 or 3 weeks. The most of it. Some of it I'd already been working on. Some I had transcripts from previous videos I've done because I've done so much work it seemed a waste. But I got so fed up working like that, I just ended up giving up on the manuscript and just what's the topic of the chapter, and I just typed away. If people think that's really impossible, what I would say is think about this topic. I'm talking about empowerment here. And I don't know how long it's going to be. Usually about an hour, but who knows. But the point is, if I could do that, to do a book, you only need about 30 of them, 30 different topics, and it's a book. And I'm quite comfortable sitting here doing it, aren't I? So if I can speak for an hour, you can bet your ass I can also type for an hour or two. And it'll be the same, it'll be similar, but I'll keep refining it and refining it and refining it. For me, it'd be superior in a book. But ultimately, if I can do, that's all I need, and I'm like a lunatic. So I was doing like about two chapters per day, but sometimes I would do 3, and I was just a machine. And I was doing anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 words a day. That's what I was working at. So things can seem impossible, but it's like when you put your mind to something, you can achieve an awful lot. You might not see the success you expect, but you never know when it will come. So, like for me, I get fed up that it's took me 7 books to still be waiting for success to come, or at least to make my life fair. But it doesn't stop me keep investing in myself and trying to help people, because it's bigger than that. My frustrations, it permeates throughout my life in various aspects. Of course, there's pressures that come, but it doesn't stop me doing it for the right reasons, So that comes back to sort of my daughter's circumstance. She's 15. She's about to turn 16 in a few months. Then she finishes high school. Then she's got her life ahead of her. There's always pressure, especially from other members of family. Like I said, for me, she never gets it. I've made it very clear. I'm more than happy for her to even take a year off, do whatever she wants. I don't really care. And it's not caring because I don't care about her. It's not caring because I want her freedom to have autonomy of her life. And I think that's just so important. How I've explained it is, and I think it's just important to put things in perspective because we will lose time, is the majority of our life, especially up to 16, 18, it's really just consumed by education. It's so much pressure even from a young mind. And as we get towards the end of high school, and we're still coming to terms with the pressure that's been exerted on us, especially as we come to the final year and you've got exams. Of course, everybody talks about that and how that can affect our future. Even the short term with the college, like the courses you can do, whether you'll be approved. So there is pressure that comes from the final year of study. But there's been pressures throughout as well, the over expectation of doing homework and things. So how much freedom, really, did a child have growing up? It wasn't a lot of freedom. They never had choice. So they couldn't determine anything for themselves. Even when they had time in the evenings, for the most part, there was homework in a way. So even if you didn't do the homework immediately, the pressure was consistently there. So you couldn't really relax. Then you get your weekends. Yeah, you're going to have some fun. But in the back of your mind, you've got to figure out when you're going to put a lot some time to study because you've got homework. It's not fair. I deplore it. I don't like that at all. Let kids be kids. Yeah, they go to school. Give them freedom after. They shouldn't be doing lessons after school. It's just stupid to me. There's a lot of life that bothers me. Like, it really bothers me. And because I see it and the average person doesn't, I prefer to open people's eyes and allow them to see it for themselves and then make decisions for how you see life. But at least you're doing it with your eyes open, So I don't like that area of life. I also don't like, when you think about work, everybody's just got so used to it like they're all robots. I think people work too much. I don't think 40 hours a week, like the average person, 40 hours a week. There's some lunatics that do even more on a regular basis. Again, I've spoke about that in my book. They make excuses as to why. They validate because they're trying to live a lifestyle that's higher than they can afford. So they have to work ridiculous hours to afford it or repay the debt that they end up getting themselves in. For a lot of people, just to posture. Just to seem glamorous in their life to those around them. It's just stupid. If you actually draining themselves to exhaustion, putting so much pressure on themselves for what? Just to look cool? What the hell? I don't get it. But that's what I'm saying. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense because you're not getting it for free. For the majority of people, you're burning yourself out for it. For what? You can have less and be happy, and that is real. The more time we have, this is what I was going to get to. There's 3 pillars, and I've said it to my daughter. There's 3 things that well, I wouldn't say all, because I think sometimes people just lack one of them sometimes, depending on whether the geographical culture, politics, religion, it has a bearing, of course. But there's 3 things we have, for the most part, that are free to us, but people sell it out so quick and easy. Time, freedom, and privacy. People give away these things all the time, and I've been noticing it, which is how I've come up with these time, freedom, and privacies. It's just the amount of time they lose to things. Yeah, when you wake up, you have all the time in the world. You can do your days how you want to do with your days. But again, our lifestyle, the choices we've made, our expectations, that has a bearing on the time we allow ourselves. So a lot of people, they say, right, I want this, I want that. They'll put it as a need. Some things are a need, but most things aren't a want. So it's not actually a necessity. And for the most part, most people work 8 hours a day. Now, some people do more, of course. Some people do less. But it's not only 8 hours, is it? Let's say you do between half an hour to get to work. Let's just say it's 10 hours. Because by the time you settle into work, some people get there early. So it's usually about most people leave an hour before work. Overall. So you've given 10 hours of your day to a job. You only have 24 in a day. So, I mean, everybody knows this. So, of course, you've only got, 14 hours left. But a majority of that is sleep. So let's say you sleep 8 to 10 hours a day. Well, if you sleep for 10, you're only going to get 4 hours spare, if I've done the maths right. Or if you could do 8, you get 6 hours spare. But if you actually look at the balance of that, the sleep is a necessity. That's not something we're doing to enjoy ourselves. So how much free time do we actually have where we're awake? At best, I've got 6 hours, but I've probably got 4 hours. I still have to cook dinner in that period. And for the most part, I'm at work. This doesn't make sense to me. When you do the maths, it doesn't make sense to me. The ratio's out of whack. You're giving 10 hours to this, and I get 4 or 6 hours back at best. But I still have to cook dinner in that period, and then I have to prepare myself to be ready for the next day. And we're not even thinking about that, are we? Like the fact that I said there's an hour each side to get to work, preparing ourselves, getting there early. But you've also got to get up for work. So who knows how early people want to get up, depending on the individual circumstance. My point is, people are born, and whatever their education they've been given, the doctrine of their culture, their society has been put into them, they consider that normal. It's standard. That's what everybody does. Of course. It's not, of course. If you was born and there was no such quota for the hours you work, you wouldn't know any different. You wouldn't actually think that's normal. So the way our world is built is incredibly corrupt, and it's made everybody born to be minions. Why? Because that's the status quo. Well, the status quo doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now, there's jobs out there that require you to work weekends and things, and that bothers me even more. Not because I care about weekends particularly, but I like structure. It's chaos. If you've just got random days here off, like one there, and it's like, that'll always feel like there's pressure to work. You'd always be fit on your day off, preparing for the next day. You'd never have a meaningful moment off. If you took what I think would be fair, and the people who say it's lazy, I don't think it's lazy at all. I think it's a quality. It's enhancing your quality of life. If you want, for instance, let's say you get fed up with the pressure of always having to work, you want to work, you want more days off. For the most part, most people are going to have to do 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts. So they'll have to give up those days pretty much to have the other days off. And it's exhausting. So the first day off, they're absolutely wrecked. They're exhausted. They're just getting enough sleep and rest to get over the period they've just done because it's been mental. The day before they go back, they're resenting going in. So they're like, so they're not really free. So that doesn't make sense. So that's, the reason I say that is there'll be people out there that'll make that excuse. You can just work longer hours and have work for your day. It doesn't work like that in terms of your well-being. I don't understand why people can't just work like 6 hours a day. I don't understand why 8's normal. 6 should be normal. You get a lot more people in workplaces. And I think you should only work maybe 4 days a week. People think that's crazy. I don't see how that's crazy. I think you should get a minimum. The ratio should be 50-50. But if you can't get 50-50, it should be as close as possible. So work 4 days, get 3 days off. That's fair. That's fair. That's as fair as it's going to be, really, without going or half a day on the third day or something. But either way, 4 days at 6 hours. 6 hours means either side of the work shift. It's an hour, isn't it? So that means you've given 8 hours to the job, travel, plus perhaps you've got up an hour earlier, so you actually give 9 hours to the job. But you've also got about an equal amount left before you go to sleep. It's as best as you're going to get it. And then at least on your days off, you're truly relaxed because you know it's not too stressful on the work days either. People think that's insane. And of course, businesses will make excuses. But you see it all the time where maybe you've got a single mother. I'm just going to use that as an example. Of course, we've got single fathers, but let's just say single mother. They want to work, but they can't because they've got to drop the kids off at school, nursery, wherever they're going to drop them off at. And they need to start work a little bit later, maybe half an hour, even up to an hour. And there's so many companies that would just plain downright refuse. And that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why companies are so rigid with time. Like, it does just alter the schedule. It's not going to hurt anybody. That means that worker will probably go the extra mile. They'll be committed and determined. They want to make up for the fact that you've helped them. So the kindness is reciprocated. So they'll actually be committed to the role. And they'll do better in the time they're allowed because their quality of life at home is better. Everyone wins. There's too many people that are like authoritarians. They just want to dictate and dominate. So they won't be flexible. So what happens is that person that is going to work exhausted, frustrated, they're concerned, they're thinking about their child all the time. How is that productive to the business? Or they have to just quit the job because they can't be there because the hours. I don't understand the lack of flexibility in society and our culture at all. And there are some obviously examples where it works. For the most part, it's not. So anyway, it's up to us to then determine the hours we want to work. Me, I can't work nights. It's too that's unproductive as shit. It's completely destabilizing of life. There's no money in the world can make that viable to me. I don't like shift work. I don't see the point of sitting around waiting for work to start. And then by the time you go to work, you've lost that week. You've literally lost the days you're working. What sort of life can you have? What sort of relationship can you have with someone? Let's say you're in a relationship with someone. You only get to see each other at the weekends. What's alternative week? Jobs have to. My point there, I know some people enjoy it. That's great. My point is, jobs suck the life out of people. And they want that to be the main part, focal point of your life. And that's what employers want. They think they own you. So we'll set these parameters. You must adhere. You must be here. And we don't care what happens outside of work. Well, I care what happens outside of work. Like, this is supposed to fund my home life, to make my life better. It's not supposed to suck my life dry. So me personally, I think 8 a.m., if you're going to have to work 8 hours, I think 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m., I think that's the better shift if you can get it, because it's not starting too late. It's not starting too early. You can relax going in. You've still got time off in the evening. But I still think 5 days is too much. People can put it down to lazy all you like. It's like, whatever. It's just, I see things clearly and people are just stuck in the system. That's the problem. Now, there'll be some people argue against it because they're not happy at home. I've seen people like this where they're in miserable marriages and they just can't wait to go to work. Then they'll just moan the whole time or gossip or try to act like they're the freaking life of the party. They'll go the extra mile to seem like they're happy and all sorts of shit. But overall, they're making work their home life. It's a weird way of seeing people, to be honest. It's kind of strange. So any overtime they can get, they do it. It's like, if you're that miserable at home, something's got to be changed. Because this place, it's just work. It's not supposed to be, Anyway, everyone makes it how they will. So let's go back to my daughter. With me knowing that about school, me knowing that about the work life, the culture, the fact that most managers nowadays are shit, in all honesty. I don't want to be rude, but most don't know how to manage. They have no people skills. Most of the time, they have no experience. They're just bullshitters, really. And you work under these people and you see the flaws quite quick. You're like, mate, you don't even know what you're doing. You're making terrible decisions. You don't have to talk to people. You're not flexible at all. All you care about is making yourself look good and then getting the next promotion. You just don't care about anyone else. Like, what sort of leadership is that? But let's not go there. So when it goes back to my daughter, that's what I'm saying. I just want her to own her time. I want her to just make her own decisions, not get sucked into the system. You know, I've said to her, look, I don't have really no expectation in terms of like what you do. I don't mind. So, for instance, if you decide you want to go college for the experience and you want to try and do well, that's fine. If at some point during that you find the course isn't for you, you're not enjoying it, you're not satisfied, you're just fed up. It's not like I'm saying it now, not to her. I don't say it like this, but to other people, I'd say that's not a loser mentality, because I know some people think, well, that's losers don't finish. Yeah, that's what's been seared into your brain. Smart people adapt. You don't waste your time. Smart people don't waste time. So I've left things. I did a university course and I didn't finish it. I got a certain way through it. I decided it weren't for me. I was working full time, and I was doing some overtime. It was a new build of a business, and I was supporting that business, and I was putting the overtime in. I got rewarded financially. My daughter's not home at that point. So when it's not affecting things, it's fine. But they expect it all the time. And sometimes I was like, no, I don't want to. And then they'd make it look like you're being lazy. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? I've already done my shift and I've already done overtime on these days. That's what I'm talking about, companies, you know. But I was really balancing that with my books. I didn't have the time or energy to study at university level, write my next books, and work full time plus overtime. The study went because it wasn't satisfying to me. I'm not going to stop writing my books. I would never let anything control that or dictate that. But the point is, I adapt. I don't sit there and say, oh, you failed for it. I couldn't give a shit if someone considers that a failure. I see that as a life lesson. I learnt things within the study, but I didn't need the certificate to prove anything. And it weren't really satisfying me or challenging me in a way that I wanted to be challenged. So it's not that I couldn't do it. It wasn't satisfying me. And it was the one I decided it was best to let go. Again, people can think what they want. So my point with my daughter is, if you're really not enjoying it and it's not going to serve a purpose and all these things, you can just stop, adapt. I don't even care if you take a year out or whatever you do. The other example here I put towards her is, if I'd known about myself what I know now, I would have made different decisions. I don't regret, because it's led me to I've done 7 books. No one could write these books because it's come from me. So it took my life lessons and me personally to write these books. So I could have had a different life, a different path, but the books wouldn't exist. And I think they will help people in time. And I think it's important I did this. So I can't regret, but if we had a different timeline, if we was going to say a different version of me would have existed, this is what I could have done. But I couldn't have done it at the time because I wasn't aware of the options or my interests. But now, in hindsight, if I was to go back to college, I'd be focused towards getting towards law school, or it would have been psychology to do therapy. And I've spoken about it before. I would either have sought to be a therapist to help people one-on-one with their lives, with their issues, or I would have gone to legal school or law school, law school to be a lawyer so I can fight against injustices. And that's something that I would have been passionate about. I wouldn't be on the side of corrupt government or dodgy people. So I couldn't represent. I don't know how it would work, but I wouldn't have been able to defend someone who, after hearing their story or witnessing their character, that I don't trust. You know, I can only do it ethically. So I'm not sure how well I would have done with that personally, but you don't know. Point is, didn't know that. So what did I study at college when I left school? I want to do computer programming because I was obsessed with computers. I'm geeky, I'm nerdy, I'm good with computers. Didn't get the grades because I didn't focus at school properly, and I've discussed that with my daughter. She's focusing more now. She's had trouble in the past because of like the trauma she's had and the things she's been through, and it was hard for her to adapt. But she's focusing now, so I make the point: don't put undue pressure on yourself. You've missed some lessons here. You've missed some stages that other kids have had in school, so don't put too much pressure on yourself. You know, no one's perfect. You can't know something you haven't been taught or you haven't experienced. I'm trying to think where I was going with that. But yeah, I've lost track. But ultimately, I want her to just do, don't put too much pressure on yourself and just be fair. Be fair to yourself, So if she gets the grades that she wants, then great. If she doesn't, it's just how it is. Now, in comparison, I didn't really focus. I had pressure on me all the time. My stepdad was very strict, very serious at times because he wants the best. He wants you to do well. He wants you to get a good job. That's how they're seeing it. They want a good life, but it wasn't what I wanted. How they saw me was different than how how they saw my life going was different to how I've always seen my life. I'm more whimsical. I'm more in touch with me, not a standard or an expectation of where someone expects me to be or how they expect me to behave. It's like, oh, I'm more of a free spirit. You can't confine me to a box. So telling me, like, for instance, you might get a school report and it says I have so much potential. He's doing good at this, but distracted with that. He's talking, being disruptive. All these things. They're not disruptive in a point where I'm throwing things, but maybe I'm talking to my friends at school and I'm just like, I'm not really focused on the lesson. I'm more interested in the social aspect. That's really what it was. And I was immature then because I was young. But again, what do you expect for kids? Stop expecting them to be like mini adults. That's what, if being honest, that pisses me off. Kids are kids. So expecting kids to be mini adults, isn't even as they're young teenagers. It's like ridiculous. You're going to make mistakes. It's not the right time to put pressure on someone to perform. Some people thrive on it because then they're focused. Others aren't. To me, no matter the report, no matter the pressure I was put on from my stepdad, he'd get the report and say, you need to buck up, and be serious about it, because he's quite intimidating being told to just go focus at school and don't be disrupted. And it's done in a very stern way. But it doesn't work with me. Like once I walk through the door, I'm back being me again because it's just me. So yeah, I didn't get the grades I wanted. I didn't get really terrible grades. I got a few C's, I got a B, majority with D's and things. But I barely did essays, barely focused in lessons. And it's like, that's fine. But I didn't get the course I wanted to do. So I was supposed to do computer programming, but instead I just did information technology at an intermediate level, which I'd pretty already done at school. So I'm going in, we're doing PowerPoint, we did a presentation at one point. It was maybe Word, Excel, just other stuff doing with Windows back in the day. I think it was a Windows XP or something. I don't know. But it was like basic shit. And I didn't need that. And it was like, okay, that's boring. I've done this. I'm just doing this to get to the next course. Passed the course. The college told me, now you can do your computer programming course if you want to. I was like, oh, done. I don't want to study anymore. I can't do this shit anymore. If you've done it my whole life at that point, you're like 18, 17, whatever you are, 17 probably. And it's like, all I've known is education. And I don't want that pressure for my daughter to all that she knows for her life is sitting in a classroom studying with an expectation that you've got to be perfect. I don't want that for her. Study how you want. One thing I have said about, I don't know what you get in America, but in the UK, you can either go college or you can go sixth form. Sixth form's just an extension of high school. It's just another building in the area and things. It's just, for me, it's people that have for me personally, I see it as for people who struggle to move on. They're scared of change. So they decide to stay on at school a little longer. I don't like that. And I've said that to my daughter, like, I don't know if you're going to like that, but it's your choice what you do. Me personally, I wouldn't do sixth form. And the more she's thought about it, she's seeing it herself. You've got to wear uniform. In college, you don't. Your friends aren't going to be there, so who are you going to be stuck with? Again, same applies for college, but college will likely be more new people to encounter. You get new experiences, whereas sixth form is likely to be some of the same kids from school. It's just maybe not your friends. And it's just, again, for me, it's just sitting in the same cycle, And it goes all full circle with all of this. It's like, I just want her to be free. And we've discussed that, We had a deeper conversation about other aspects of life, of course. That was all to do with time. And our freedom to a degree as well, wasn't it? That was like the time and the freedom. Time is precious. It's up to us to make it work, take accountability of that, make decisions that favour our quality of life, So, like I say, I'm not interested in taking shift work jobs. I'm not interested in taking night shift jobs, and I don't care if that's all that's available. Kiss my ass. It's not good enough. I'm not wasting my life away like that. There's alternatives, and I'll wait for the alternative. People can put whatever they want to that, but it's our time, and it's working towards like our freedom and things, So like we are free to make our own decisions. It's not about the expectation people have of us. And then what was the other one? Privacy, man. I see this all the time, where people share too much of themselves online. I do my videos here and then I go away. There's some people with a camera on themselves all the time. And the real problem when I see that is the value of themselves is determined by people's reaction to them. So, for instance, if you go live and no one's watching, you're going to feel quite poor about yourself. You're not going to feel like anybody cares, all this. That's a stupid way to see life. Just because a stranger's not noticing you're watching or someone's busy with their life or just you're not doing anything interesting. Everyone thinks they're entertaining and it's like, thing is, you're not. So, like, what's the skill? What's the interest? Too many people got overinflated opinion of themselves. They think people should just be following them all the time. And it's just mad. And then it's like, that's time you never get it back. So you give your privacy away. You never get that moment back. You've already shared it. People are already aware. The other side is, when do you turn it off? You know, I see that all the time. People just don't know how to shut down. And I think that's going to become more prevalent in society, where maybe you go to a restaurant or you go to a cafe and you just want to enjoy it, just have a meal. Everybody's recording themselves talking to a fake audience. There's no point saying anything to someone. This is rude, you know. I'm trying to enjoy my meal, and I'm in your footage. But the trouble is, it just causes more of a scene, and then it makes more of an issue with you. So it's just the way people are. But you won't see me doing that in my lifetime. I'd rather be in the moment. I don't need to document it, and I think that's something that people need to start looking at with their life before it gets out of control. Because too many people, they follow trends. You know, they just copy everything in society, and that was something else I was discussing with my daughter, really. So I've had some quite deep conversations. Another one was about I don't want to be too specific because in case anyone sees it that knows her, but she's had a situation with an ex-boyfriend where she still thinks about that person, and that person was rude or distant at one point, but now they're looking like they're, you know, trying to get her attention some way. But she's strong in herself, you know. And I've had conversations with her. Now this is where I don't want to blend spirituality too much, but I'm spiritual, she's spiritual, she has gifts, I have gifts. So we have our own tarot cards. And anyone I don't want to put too much into this because I don't want to throw people off who don't get it or aren't interested. It's not about me trying to influence, because I'm not interested in that. But the cards are always consistent, is what I would say. Let's not say they're accurate, because that's for other people to determine and for time to prove that. But let's just say they're consistent. That's the best I can say. So, like, for instance, she'll ask a question and I might say, it might give an answer. Well, it would give an answer. Let's say 5 cards come out and she's not quite sure. It's obvious, but you just want a bit more. So I'll just say, clarify each card. And if nothing comes out, then that card says everything in itself. You don't need an answer to that one. And then to ask about that one, and I'm like, I can guarantee you're not going to get a negative card with that, because that's beautiful. And she get another positive card. And I said, I told you. Because it's, you know, I don't want to say it's real because other people won't believe. And I'm not here to force that. But like, I know in my life and in her life, when we do these things, it's accurate. So yeah, she gets this and she's leaning into it, but understanding she has to go with the flow because otherwise events change. But go beyond that. Let's go beyond that. Let's forget that for a minute. With said person, I can understand people's personalities, and I try to explain. What I want her to always be is level and balanced. It's not let people take you for granted. Don't let them abuse you, but recognize other people have their issues too, and try to look at the bigger picture. That's just really important. So let's say someone treated you bad, but did they treat you bad because they're a horrible individual who tried to hurt you, or are they insecure? Are they going through some things? Are they not ready for the connection? You know, so many things it could be. And yes, of course, it hurt you. So it's not removing the pain, but it's really important that we understand why something happened. So, for instance, someone else might have pressures at home. Let's say their family expect them to do well. Maybe they broke up with said person because their family told them to, and they're too young to make their own decisions, and the pressure made them do it. Maybe they're not ready. You know, just maybe they're not emotionally developed and ready for an intense connection. Perhaps they're insecure. They don't feel good enough. So they self-sabotage. Those things happen. Of course, some people are just really spiteful and vindictive and horrible. So it's really important you're not stupid. But regarding the person that, you know, she had a connection with, I'll share my opinion. I said, I think they're actually a really kind person, a good person. I don't think they mean to hurt you. I think they're just insecure and a bit, they're not as emotionally developed as her. Now, she's had me obviously her whole life, so she's had, I don't want to say wisdom because that puts me, I'm not trying to posture anything either, but she's had someone who talks to her in a way that is educational. So she's been empowered throughout her life, but in a positive, I feel in a balanced way. I don't, just tell her she's perfect. I give her, I reflect on like the positives, the negatives, and it creates a balanced perspective. And she has that. So she sees the world in a way that not everybody would. And I love that for her. And she's smart enough and wise enough to process for herself. So I made the point to her that you're more emotionally developed than they are. So you're too good for them because they're not ready for you. And she said, and I said, I know what you're going to say. And she said, yeah, you're just saying that because I'm your daughter. I said, no, because I'll only ever be honest with you. This is actually what I said to her. I actually said this. I said, if you was with someone and I thought they were kind to you and they did everything right, and I felt you were taking them for granted and you were disrespecting them, I would tell you straight up, you don't deserve them. They deserve better than you based on your current emotional level. They deserve someone who's going to respect them and appreciate them. And if you're not at that level yet, then they deserve someone better in this time. And I said to her, I would say that straight up to you if I felt you're not ready or you're treating someone horrible. I'm not going to just side with her because she's my daughter. That's so disrespectful to the other people, and it's disrespectful to her own growth. I see so many people just like tell those around them, oh, you're great, and they just pander to them all the time. They don't learn anything. It's really important that we're balanced. And I've said that. So I've said in that circumstance, I'm telling you, like where I see the other guy like that in this situation, you're more emotionally developed than they are. They've got work to do. And I said the real problem you're going to have is, yeah, our heart pulls us in different directions. But you've got to think about like the things you'd want. If you think in 5 years' time, let's say, would you want someone who's still emotionally stunted? They're not very confident in themselves. So they struggle to express what it is they want and maybe treat you the way you want to be treated? Or would you rather be with someone who's going to, everything's spontaneous. You don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. It's amusing. You don't know, like maybe just randomly you're going to go on like a road trip. Or, maybe they treat you nice. They take you for a meal, or they give you a gift. And of course it's all reciprocated. This isn't just saying, oh, they should give you things. But the point is, do you want someone who is insecure and a bit boring in comparison, or someone where you just don't know what's going to happen next? But it's in a beautiful way, not like someone that's aggressive and all that, but somebody in a beautiful way. I think that's what you would want. And I don't think you're going to find it there, personally. But I mean, that's for you to discover. I'm just saying that's how I see it. And then, of course, you have to look at the fact that school finishes soon. If that person calls it, like if it pulls you in and out and it happens right before exams, you're going to be in a real bad headspace where you might not be able to focus on the exam. Now, like I say, I don't usually care about things like that, but when it means something to her, for something personal to obstruct that would be really, really regrettable, I think. So it's really just looking ahead as well and saying when you go to college, is the way I see school, right, is a bit like a prison. This is how I see it. Like if you was in a prison, you really are just stuck confined to a certain group of people, and it's either fit in or distance yourself, but there's like a safety aspect, and you still have that same aspect at school. It's better to be liked than hated, for starters. So you naturally have a defense mechanism. You find a way to coexist with people. Not necessarily saying everyone's your best friend, but you find a way just to have some mutual respect. But think about like dating. Your dating pool's also a lot smaller. You don't have many options. It's just what's familiar and what's available. Yet when you finish school, the world becomes your oyster. You'll meet at people in various walks of life, whether it's a workplace, whether it's that you've gone out at the weekend, you've done something, or you just, even at college and things, you're just meeting new people. So in that instance, is it really are you likely to stay in a relationship with someone from high school? Now it happens, or is it going to fizzle away anyway? So you have to have, your heart can pull you in different places. And I'm just trying to show her that, be logical as well. Like think about it yourself rather than get pulled back and forth. But it's up to you to figure that out, of course. And I said that to her. That's one of the things I said. I would never ever tell you who you can and can't date. That's your life. That's none of my business. I might tell you what I think in a given moment, but it's for you to decide for yourself. And if I say something, I'm not just saying it to be disrespectful. I'm just giving you an honest opinion based on a circumstance. But for the most part, I probably wouldn't even say anything unless we're having a conversation about it specifically. So regarding this boy, she did say to me the other day that she only talks to me about it. Her friends would just steer her away. They wouldn't really listen. She doesn't want to talk to her mum or anyone else. She doesn't really feel that way, like talk to them about things like that. They wouldn't. They're not the best communicators. So she feels she can have deep conversations with me and I understand and things like that. And it's like, for me personally, so anyone can have an opinion of my views and of me personally, but it's like, what matters more? You know, the fact that she can confide in me, she feels comfortable enough to do so. And she always walks away feeling more positive. And I just think, well, I've done my job as a parent then, haven't I? And like I say, when I have these conversations with her, sometimes I think, I think people could have done with this. I think it would help them, you know, because there's so much of life that's pressure, pressure, pressure. And there's so much we give away with the expectation that everything will work out. And yet you see it time and time again where people have just worked themselves throughout their 20s, 30s. Everything was focused on career. They lost track of life. They say, I've never dated before. I've never had kids. I'm never going to have kids. And some of them want kids. And some of them want to date. And some of them want to build a family. But finding that balance is so freaking hard between having the family life, having a relationship, and working if you're going to be a career person. What I would say, and I'm not trying to diminish anybody who has a career, the one thing I would say with that is, within our families, yes, we're replaceable because divorces happen, separations happen. Regarding our kids, when you put in the work and you are dedicated to them, absolutely. It's unconditional. You'll be in each other's lives for your lifetime. Now, you're not doing it for that, but that's the result. Relationships, you can't guarantee it. So you could say, I'm going to be with my wife, my husband for my whole life. It's never given. Both parties have a say. Life gives us challenges. So I wouldn't say it's always someone to blame. There's setbacks in life, and sometimes it can be too much to overcome. And it's just, there's reasons, aren't there? What I would say about career, like jobs, we're always replaceable with jobs. People think they're irreplaceable. I've done this, I've committed to this. They'll replace you in a heartbeat. So you've given your life to something that's really quite pointless, really. If you feel good about yourself, that's great. If you've elevated yourself somehow, great. But I always feel jobs shouldn't define us, you know. So, like, for instance, even me, like you see, I see it as I'm trying to help people. I do my books, I do my videos, but I'm on an individual basis, personal. I'm bigger than I'm more bigger than the work I do. You know, it's the love I share in my own personal life, the connections I have with people, and how I feel about myself. It's really that is the result of what I share, and what I share is a big part of like what comes from within. So if people was, for instance, the best way to put it in perspective, if someone was to read my books from start to finish, you start with the first one, that's family trauma. You go through it, the Losing Mind and Finding Yourself is my spiritual breakthrough. The others are personal growth. They're not spiritual, they're just personal growth, development, seeing life. If someone was to read my books, they might go, God, these are great books. They might say that. They might like them. They might say, this is different. And maybe that's what I'm known for. What I would say, all of those books encompass what I am within. So if I talk about the trauma I've been through, for instance, and I share that journey, it's because I experienced it. That trauma is in me, and I learned a lot from it. It built my character. You see read the spiritual book. Maybe it helps if you give your breakthrough. Maybe there's things in there you just think, wow. And it's like, again, that's the experience I shared, but it's in me. So the trauma is in me. That spirituality is in me. The deeper understanding of why we're here. The personal growth and the way I see life. It's not just projected outwards. That's in me. That's how I live. So there's chapters there you might think that's deep, that's deep, that's deep. That's all in me. It's just me. So I embody everything that I've written about, and there's still more to come in the future. So if there's more to come in the future, there's more in me, you know. So this isn't a case of me just going to work a 9 to 5 job. That's just being productive for a means to an end. But that doesn't define me, because that's not an extension of me. That's just performing a duty. So the books I do actually come from within me, and they share because it's part of who I am. So part of how I share it onto the pages. When I go to a normal, like just a traditional job, that's not an extension of me in any way, shape, or form. It's a skill I can learn, and it's a task I perform, but it doesn't represent any part of who I am. You know, it's just a duty. So that those jobs don't, the job and the work, the things I do for them, that doesn't define me. What defines me is me. And the jobs I do, if you do traditional jobs, well, I usually do forklift and warehouse stuff, certainly doesn't define me. I'm certainly far better than the job, you know. And there's experiences we want to have in life, you know. I think it's really important that we don't give away our dreams for everything else. So that's what I always say to my daughter. Like, if you just want to travel, you want to do things, I'd say just embrace it, man. Just live the life you want. You know, you don't want to live the life you don't want. And I think there's just so much pressure externally from everybody. And like I say, the other day we had such deep conversations that just kept bouncing all over the place, because it would be about the relationship. It started off with that side of things, because that was what she was focused on. But then she's also having to study, and it was all these things. And then I was just trying to make that point, the correlation between the fact that, you know, the relationship can get in the way of that, but then you're studying, and I don't want you burning yourself out, the pressures. And then when we were talking about college and things, I was just trying to make it clear that, you know, it's okay to pivot away from that sometimes. And it was all what you're never going to rest. You know, let's say you live to 60, you're studying for like up to 18 years. If you go to university, it'd be even more, depending on what you're studying, of course. But even if you just round it up to 20 years, you live to 60, 20 years. You've only got 40 years of actually living. 20 years you've lost for education, just building you to who you are, just going off into the big wide world. And you've only got 40 years to then put it into practice and start evolving and experiencing and transitioning and growing, you know. But most people, they just get caught in the rat race where, like I said, you get maybe 4 hours a day spare to yourself, and maybe you're lucky to get the weekend. You're lucky to get the weekend, and you barely get any time off during the week. And that's what you could be on that revolving door till you're 60 years old. You're just about to see retirement in your late mid-60s, whatever it is nowadays, and you die from an illness or something, or an accident. You didn't even get to see the retirement. Because that's really the trouble. A lot of people work for retirement. That's what they do. They look and think, I need to save for this retirement, need to save for this retirement. And they think it's all better. Retirement, you'll be lucky to get there. Most people don't. Even if you get there, your eyesight's diminished, your mobility's diminished, your mind is, some people get dementia, your mind slows down, your hearing, everything starts to degrade, because that's just old age. So the idea that you can do all those things at the end is ridiculous. You should do them while you're healthy. So I think personally, people should be focused more on their happiness and well-being rather than the rat race that others live by. Now, like I said at the beginning, there's pressures all the time. There's always going to be pressure of time or pressure of money. It's just which one can you handle more? And if you can find a balance between the two, great. But I'd say don't fall for the pressure others expect you to live by. I've had that my whole life. People expect me to be a certain way, and I could be like that if I chose to. I don't want to. So my life has been unstable quite a lot because of the sacrifices I make for sometimes those around me, but then other times for me. And it comes often at a financial consequence. But if I didn't do that, I'd be more than capable in terms of skills, talent, and things to continuously work all the time. You know, I could easily go into a warehouse. I can do all the different forklifts and things. I could just stay there even if I'm miserable. I could be a robot. If my mind wasn't as sharp as it is, and I didn't question the things that annoy me, and I was just a minion, I could have done that automated. And that's my life. That's what it could have been. I don't think that's very good. Hence why I don't do that. Now, like I say, life does get hard. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it certainly isn't. But sometimes it's about choosing the lesser of two evils. I can cope with this financial pressure and stress. It's not nice. It's not comfortable. But I really, 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 really struggle. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a struggle. But when I say really, really, really struggle with something else, that means it's an extreme. So I can deal with having to make payment plans, scrape by from 1 week to the next. I'm not saying it's nice. Who would like that? But what I'm saying, I can cope with it. What I can't cope with is being really, really demoralized in toxic workplaces, whether it's a toxic culture, terrible work patterns, terrible job, the bosses, the work schedule. I can't do it if it's that miserable. If it's a good place to work, fine. Like, I can do certain things, but again, it still has to be to the certain schedule. I'm not working late. I'm just not doing it. My life is not work, and I don't care how anyone else sees it. My life isn't. I won't allow that. I won't allow a job to dictate and obstruct my personal life. That's a barrier I will not allow. Never going to happen. Don't do that. So there is that. But yeah, so like if a job is feasible and it's not toxic in culture and it ain't miserable to go, then fine, you can go off and do that, can't you? And it's like I'm finding more and more it's getting harder and harder to find those jobs. So then you come across unstable because you don't stay in those places. But why are those places so freaking rare? People sell you paradise and it ends up a dump. And that's what it's like, always like. And it's just demoralizing, But it's like I can't physically be in a place that makes me miserable. If I'm somewhere and all I'm thinking about in that period is that I want to get out of here as fast as I can and I never want to return, how the hell can I go back? People have put everything behind financial responsibilities, and I get it. There's times when you're going to suck it up just for a little bit longer. There's some people that will just stay there miserable. I can't. I would rather lose everything around me than keep myself miserable because it's a different type of misery. I'm not someone who can be captive. I can't be a prisoner to someone else's rule. And that's what it is. So yeah, I'll come across as unhinged, and perhaps I am. But I really can't do that. The idea that someone has autonomy of my life, dictates my every move, and forces me to be miserable because they're going to give me a little bit of money to compensate for that misery. But they're not even seeing it like that. They think they're just buying your time. They're just buying. Ultimately, they think they're buying you and they own you. That's foolish. No one owns me. That's a mistake a lot of people make. And they're really, really shocked because in workplaces, they're really shocked when I walk away. In all honesty, I rarely give notice. I don't even know if I have. No. I'm usually like a ticking time bomb. It's like I'm getting fed up and then gradually it's getting worse and worse to the point where I can't put up with it anymore. And I have to leave. And because places, they think they can keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. And you'll keep putting up with it. With me, it's like, you've misjudged me. That was a mistake. You've misjudged me. And now you've pushed it too far. And I can't even bring myself to return. And so be it. And so the next challenge begins. Because again, I could much more comfortable, as hard as it is, cope with financial pressures and losses than I can with my mind feeling trapped and being held captive by a toxic work culture. So anyway, if you keep yourself somewhere miserable, guess what you're going to be? You're miserable. It's just stands to reason, isn't it? If you're miserable today and we're not doing anything about it, it's probably likely. I'm not saying ultimately, because you never know what opportunities come. Something could just happen out of nowhere. So that's not saying forever, but it really does. It's quite progressive, isn't it? So if you're going to be miserable, there's a good chance you're going to continue to be miserable. Similar to my situation, like my financial pressures, it can get a bit much. I can feel down. I can get depressed. Of course I can. It's getting unbearable. So I can do something about it, but it's up to me then to be very particular about what I'm prepared to accept. So I know a lot more about myself, don't I? I know when I'm looking at jobs now, I can't do nights. That's impossible. I can't do late shifts. It's just too much. I'm not interested in that shit. And I don't want to do weekends because I want structure. It's not that I care specifically about the weekend days. I want structure. I like that. I like to know that if I do this and do that, that's what I've got off. I don't want someone messing me about. I would just want to work either early or at least not late. Finish at a reasonable time. So I still have my evenings spare. If you can get your afternoons and evenings spare, that's even better. And my weekends. At least I know the amount of free time I have to work with. And then it's almost like a fair trade-off, as at least fair as you can get it. That's what I'm looking for. But ultimately, I'd much rather have more of my freedom and continue to invest in my creative capacities. But other things determine that, don't they? Hopefully, this has got some way to helping people. I know people can have their own opinions, which of course everybody's free to do. This is just some of the things I've spoken about with my daughter, and we talk a lot. And I've probably missed some things. But as you've seen here, and I haven't done it purposely at all, I'm just wrapping up now, and I just glanced at the clock. I said it about an hour. They usually are 55 minutes, and it's similar how I write. It's just when I write, I fine tune, and if there's any repetition that I didn't mean to do, I didn't expect. Of course, you're going to try and take that out. But like I say, if I wasn't doing the video, I would be typing and writing. So it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? But yeah, I'm really, really proud of that book. I'm proud of all my books, to be honest. I would never say any are no good. Like, I'm always proud. So I read them. I would just say this one I feel personally is my best writing. So I mean, every book is powerful in its own right. There's certain things that make them unique. I'm really, really proud of this new one, and I can't wait to me personally receive it tomorrow, and have it in my hands. I've been reading my Kindle version because I've got my own version on Kindle, on my own little Kindle. So yeah, I was reading fragments of it, but I kind of prefer to wait until I've got the physical book and really get to just soak it up. In the past, I used to read the first book. Every time I released a book, I'd start from the first book and I'd read all the way through. But I've got so many books now, it's really hard for me to commit to doing that because not because it's a lot to read. It's a lot to read over and over again. I've read them so many times, each of my books. And I can be quite self-critical, I've got a perfectionist mindset. So if I see something, it puts me off or something annoys me. But I forget that most people probably just read him once, and it's like you won't notice some of the things. But I could do that with any book, and I do that when people talk. There's certain mannerisms people have, and it just drives me absolutely mental. Just on anything, even social media. When I see them talking, I'm like, oh my god. But that's just my mindset. I'm a bit critical. Hopefully, it's done people service because that's what I want to do with people. Just help people grow.